Thank you, Derrick, for those warm welcome. And yes, we are swarming ideas here. Swarm intelligence is basically you give a small unit, just a little bit of information, and then you gather millions of units together, and you'll be surprised. You see the fish, for example, they swarm, they do the circular motion. Each unit has a small bit of intelligence, but combine them together, millions of units, they will work as a team. And that's why sport is actually a concept of swarm intelligence. You provide a winger the instructions of how to run, how to beat the opposition, but basically that's about it. But you provide a hooker, how to hook balls, basically that's about it. But put them together, they'll work as a cohesive unit. That's all about swarm intelligence. Giving a little bit of intelligence to a unit, but cohesively, they will work together. So, what I want to talk about is this new area, really, from our perspective as the university. It's quite new because we are not really in the domain, well, at least USP, not really in the domain of sports research. But when I came into this area this 1 year now, of course with the help of Jackie, I realized that the environment is large actually. The ecosystem of sport is huge. And being an islander, there's an instinct in us that sport is great. And I really want to know more about this. And luckily with the help of Jackie, I realized that globally there's an agreement of about how to go about promoting sport in helping us to sustain us as well, or development sustainment goals, and how to bring about the stakeholders to help us in our sustainable development goals. And those areas, now I understand, are those areas that we're going to be discussing in the next few days. And very quickly, those areas are research and education, policy development and capacity building, regional consultation, coordination and action, advocacy and communication, and M&E. So now I understand that the stakeholders from all these areas need to come together in order to promote sport. And not only that, in order to study the impact of sport on the society and on the economy. Now I know exactly where the role of the university is. The role of the university is in sport and education. Now knowing exactly what our role is, now we can contribute that small unit of intelligence to the entire sport fraternity. And of course, you have your own role to play in different areas of sport. But for us today, in this session, it's more on research and education. What I want to do is to outline to you what's the plan of the university in research and in education. Being a regional university, we hope that our plan also impacts upon the other member countries as well. Not only the Fiji government plan, but also other member countries as well of USP. So I will talk about what we will be doing as we go together in this journey and promote sport and look at the impact of sport in the society. Fortunately, and I'm pleased to say, that we've got a voice in the Commonwealth. Fortunately, because of the research that we are embarking on analyzing the impact of sport to the economy and society, fortunately, we were invited by the Commonwealth Advisory Body of Sport to be member of this body, of this great body. It is an advisory body that advises the ministers of education of all the Commonwealth countries on the development of sports. And so we have a voice in there. The Pacific Islanders have a voice in CABOS, the Commonwealth Advisory Body in sport to the Ministers of Sport. And that's great. So I went to the CABOS meeting, the annual meeting last month, just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, in Mauritius. And that really opened up my eyes, and I just realized how powerful sport is and the impact of sport on organization. And they asked me, Jito, how does sport impact the Pacific Islands? As I mentioned, I'm not in this area, but the very first instinct that came up to me is to tell them a story. And so I will go through the story with you. Not only, of course, that it impacts us economically, and I mentioned to them about the fact that in Fiji, at least, behind sugar, rugby players are the second biggest export from Fiji. Combined with Samoa and Tonga, they provide almost 20% of the world's professional rugby players. 20%, just imagine that. We've got these tiniest islands floating out there in the Pacific. And we've got these biggest continents, but we provide 20%. My God, that's incredible. That's amazing. Just imagine the kind of money that these players are bringing to our Pacific Islands. Pacific Island players regularly sweep up the end-of-year awards in all the top leagues for Player of the Season. And nearly every top try scorer in these leagues is from the Pacific. Now, I'm not saying this. That's what I told them. I'm not saying this. Who was saying this? It was Ben Ryan, the former Fiji Sevens team coach, Olympic gold in 2016. It's coming from a third party, and it's telling the world that the impact of sport in the region is immense. And that is an example of it. But for me, what I was more happy to share was not really this economic impact, but it's real. But the fact that, as our Reverend said this morning, the sport actually has a big impact on faith in the Pacific Islands. And I was not ashamed to say that in front of Africans, in front of Caribbeans in the Commonwealth. Sometimes we are shy about our faith. I talk about our faith in general, not only Christianity. But it's really impact upon our faith. And that's the first impact upon me as a non-sports person, as a non-athlete. But as a scientist, I realized that indeed sport plays a big role in our faith. I shared with the Commonwealth that there are 5 things that the Pacific Islanders love the most. The first one is our God, our faith, God. And the second one is our Vanua, our country. The third one is our food. That's why you hardly see a thin Pacific Islander. Our fourth one is our cover, great drink. And of course, the fifth one is sport. We love sport. And it impact upon our faith, and perhaps it's reflected in what Ben Ryan said when we won the Fiji the gold medal. Veilomani. Veilomani really means love of each other. Or translated into English, love each other, work together, was the Fiji Sevens motto at the Rio Olympics in 2016. That for me was a greater impact, that impact upon our faith. And you can see that in the Hong Kong Sevens, when we won the game, the first thing is that they proclaim, they acknowledge the existence of God. And it's wonderful for us here in the Pacific because then it helps us to work together in harmony. Those were the 2 impact stories that I mentioned, economically and, of course, in our faith as well. I'm sure there are other factors as well. But knowing the importance of sport now in the region, knowing that it impacts us economically and in terms of our faith, in terms of other things as well, our health, As a scientist, so we have to go back now to basics. We have to establish the basics, go back to the fundamentals. In mathematics, we say the axioms. Go back to the accepted truth. Start from that, accept the truth, and then you can develop your theorems. Develop your theorems and prove your theorems based on the axioms, on the accepted truth. So, as a university, we begin to search for what is the truth, what are the fundamental truths with respect to sport. So, when, where, how do we even begin to recognize the capacity of Pacific Islands in sport, and how to analyze these, the impact of sport on the economy and society? Where, when, and how do we even begin to recognize the impact of sport? When we can answer that, then we can look at the data and analyze that. So the good thing about this is that the ball has already started rolling. So when, how, that we even begin to recognize the importance of sport. We begin this story in 2014. The story began in 2014 at the Samoa Pathway. In Article 82, our leaders therefore recognize the importance of sport. For us, for us scientists here, for us the university, this is important. We don't want to do something that has no mandate, that has no support of the Pacific Island leaders. This was great. We know that now we've got the support of leaders. Article 82, we recognize the strong capacity of small island developing states in sport. We support the use of sports as a vehicle to foster development, social inclusion, and peace, strengthen education, promote health, and build life skills, particularly among youth. This is great. Now we know exactly where to begin from. And the question now is, how do we move ahead given this mandate from the ministers? The beautiful thing about it is that the ministers strongly endorse now the sport as an activity, a great activity that will help promote economic development in the region and so forth. As you can see, in 2015, not only that, in 2017, in 2018, in 2019, the push was coming from the top. And that's really great. The push was coming from the ministers until eventually they come up with an action plan called SPAPE. We are here today to come up with the activities that will feed into the action plan. And this is great. We've got the endorsement of the leaders. Now we are doing as separate stakeholders our own role and to feed into the SPAPE. So now let me just concentrate a little bit on our role, the university, on how we can help with this. What are we doing here at the university? Now you can see in that picture the committee or the SPAPE that looks after our activities here in the region. As I mentioned earlier, there are 5 areas that we have distributed among us, and all the stakeholders are here today. We are in the area 5, research and education. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and my colleague Desmond will elaborate more on the actual nitty-gritty of research that we're doing under 5. But the first thing that we did was, the first research that we did was last year, and that is looking at maximizing the contribution of sport to economic and social development of Pacific Island countries. So the blueprint is essentially this research. We establish a blueprint, and then we look at the case of Fiji and Samoa. And it is amazing the kind of data that we came across. It's really amazing because then, for the first time ever, we realized the impact of sport when we're looking at the numbers. Impact the sport here, for example, to our economy and to our human resources development and so forth. and in particular, how we can use sport to meet our SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 3, it talks about good health and well-being. Number 8, it talks about decent work and economic growth. And number 10, it talks about reduce inequalities. And today we see examples of that. We've got our colleagues, our people from the disabilities, talking about how they can participate in sport. So Desmond will go quickly through with you on the nitty-gritty of this important research. But this research was sponsored by the university. And what we want to do now is to enlarge this research. We want now to include other member countries of the university, not only Fiji and Samoa. So we're going ahead with this research and extend it to the other member countries of the Pacific Islands of USP. And also last year we looked at the socio-economic impacts of the Samoa 2019 Pacific Games. And our plan is to do this for every mini Pacific Games and also the major Pacific Games. So now we've got a sustainable research program at the university that looks at the impact of sport. Every mini Pacific Games, every major Pacific Games, we will be engaged in looking at that impact. And therefore, we have now a place where we can store data and we can share this data across the Pacific Islands to really look at the impact of sport to the Pacific Island member countries. That's all from me, but I hope you'll know exactly what our plan is. That's important for us, as our DVC mentioned. We are not shying away from this, from our role. We are funding this. We are taking this initiative, the bull by the horn of the bull, as it were. Yes, we're taking the horn of the bulls. Can you see that? Or the bulls by the horn. We're taking the bull by the horn, and we want to make sure that we do our responsibility, commit to that, and do our research and provide the data to all Pacific Island member countries. Thank you so much.